Welcome to the Scoop World Order. Having a little Holy Tempeh tonight on this wonderful Monday. We've got some big news from Nevada Buck. I got NevadaBuck and Kevin Noon, my compadres, with us tonight. They announced the champions. And Nevada, I'm going to throw it right to you. The big news of the day, Ryan Day and Kerry Combs had a little mea culpa. Can you give us the ditty on that real quick from your nugget today?
Yeah, basically, there's obviously some soul searching going on within the OSU staff regarding how the game went last Thursday against Minnesota, and I think it's safe to say that Kerry Combs was a little bit more optimistic and upbeat about the performance, and Day was a little less impressed with the performance. And I think there's we posted some details on the Ask the Insiders board, but there's some specific suggestions that Day had regarding substitutions, location of the coordinator on the field, and limiting kind of the wholesale hockey line changes that we were seeing, which is something that we had talked about earlier in the week. So I think Day is very wise, and I think he had some strong feelings about the defensive performance on Thursday, and I thought that was interesting.
How much of that do you think, in the back of your mind, does that have to do with the Alabama issue, the Alabama game from last year, and just knowing at the end of the tunnel you're going to see Alabama again? So is it we can't judge it based on how we did against Minnesota? That wouldn't have been good enough to beat Alabama. Is it that type of mentality? Do you believe?
Well, I think the issue is that they're trying to get on the same page right now with a defensive philosophy, and I think for what we've seen here the last couple of seasons is that there just seems to be a little bit of a disconnect between what Day wants and what he's getting from the OSU defense. And I think Ryan's at the point right now where he's got to put his side. He's primarily and by trade he's an offensive coach, but now he's having to do a little deeper dive into the defensive side, and he's starting to hold those guys accountable to what he wants because he knows that there is a minimum threshold that you have to be at. You're not going to win in the modern era with just defense. It's not going to be trestle ball and ball control and everything else like that. But there's a minimum competent defense that you need to be able to play. And we certainly didn't show it in the championship game, the final game of the 2020 season and the opening game on Thursday. We had some issues, and short of a ruptured Achilles tendon, we might have been looking at the wrong side of the scoreboard on that one. So I think Day was concerned and expressed as much.
Kevin, you've been on the beat for a long time. You've been around the program for a long time. What's your take on what's going on and the potential dynamic between Kerry and Ryan Day? Kerry obviously went to the NFL for a few years. Yeah. He's never coordinated a defense at a level above high school. What is your take on the current issues and the potential issues going forward?
Yeah, I agree with everything I've heard so far. I mean, obviously in Alabama, Ohio State was down a couple of defenders against Minnesota. Ohio State was down a couple of defenders, but them's the breaks. That life in the big city, you're going to have to deal with that. So, you can't. I mean, I'm not saying anybody there's using that as a crutch, but you certainly can't use that as a crutch. We have seen that there have been some issues. The defense was leaky last year. The defense here in game one of 2021 was a little bit leaky. I mean, obviously Mo Ibrahim, hell of a player, rushed for what, $163 or whatnot, and if not for the Achilles, could have gone for $2 bills. So they need to make some sort of changes there. I mean, I was on another show earlier on Monday I guess on Monday, and we were talking about the defense, and I was like, it reminded me somewhat of the Oregon State game where they gave up 31, and that one had a little bit of a different feel because they put up 77 in that game, but there certainly were some early cracks in the dam, and kudos and credit to Ryan Day for saying, we're not going to sit there and drown the townspeople here. We're going to address this right now while we can do it. And, whatever the move is, whether, and I don't want to get too much into the things that Nevada put in there. Want everybody to sign up for BuckeyeScoop, go and see the nugget there. Fantastic stuff. But, I agree with a lot of things there that, there need to be some changes. Certainly the return of Seven Banks, the return of Cameron Brown, if that happens here in week 2, that's going to help. but I think that there's some structural things as well that probably need to be addressed. And again, the hockey line changes, those have got to go. Those have got to go.
Yeah, those I think they're stressful. I think guys, when guys are running on and off, there's always communication issues. We saw last night with Notre Dame, there was 12 men on the field and guys, am I on, are you on? And you see these issues and you get substitution infractions and you don't really get the chemistry that you normally would have. So another thing that came out today was the champions grades, which is one of our favorites. Gonna go to you, Nevada. There were some interesting names that were on this list, and there were also some interesting names of guys that were not on this list. Any surprises to you on the champions grades, Nevada?
Well, I think that what was interesting to me is just, you had 12 guys on the defense graded out as champions. And I contrast that to only 9 guys on the offense graded out as champions. Just that alone, that statement alone right there, gave me some pause for sure. And there were a couple of names on the defensive list that, guys that I love, and I don't want to single anybody out, but their names, rhyme with Tommy Eichenberg and Bryson Shaw, that were graded out as champions that I didn't think played great. And I love both those kids, and I'm rooting so hard for them, and I want them to be all Americans and great players, but I didn't think they were great Thursday, but they graded as champions. And then I look on the offense and then I see guys like Garrett Wilson or Trey Henderson, missing from the champions list. And it just seems like maybe the offensive graders were a little bit more difficult than the defense, or maybe the defense was grading on a curve or something like that. But it certainly was a head scratcher.
Yeah, Trey Henderson, 7 plays, 85 yards on 3 touches, and 70-yard touchdown to break their backs. Essentially, that was very interesting. Another notable addition, Kevin, C.J. Stroud, not on the list. Started off slow, but then caught fire in the second half. What do you make of some of these names, and what were there any names that surprised you, Nooner?
Yeah, I mean, I look at champions very much like I look at black stripes. I think a lot of it is motivational, and I think that there are some different criteria based on who's grading and the positions and maybe just the outcome of the game. And I've always felt that there's a motivational factor there, and some guys play better pissed off, and I didn't get to go have the steak and lobster, so I'm going to be pissed off and and carry that forward, and some guys might need a little bit of encouraging. I can understand not rolling the quarterback out there game one. Sure, he threw for 4 touchdowns. Sure, he threw for close to 300 yards, but a lot of that too was based on 50, 60, 70-yard plays. That's going to get you there. I think when you go back and you look at the tape and you see everything there, it was kind of a mixed bag for him. There certainly are a couple names on the defensive side of the ball, as both of y'all said, that, tremendous guys and are probably going to be tremendous players here at some point, but I didn't see it. It wasn't there on the tape. It wasn't there in the film. So whether or not it's just, hey, we're going to give you a little confidence boost. You're our guy. We love you. Here you go. Go get the dinner. Go get the notoriety of all this. Great. Maybe they have some secret all 22 that I'm not seeing, and they saw some things that I didn't. I mean, I only have the TV copy, so there certainly are some things that I probably didn't pick up on, but I think that if we have a consensus here that that there's some names that probably are kind of borderline in terms of making the list, maybe there's something else in play here.
Yeah, as a guy who's actually graded film at Ohio State before, I have like a different perspective, just because there are some guys that are notoriously soft graders, and honestly, I would love to have Zach Smith on here. Just because me and Zach would just laugh sometimes in 12 when we would grade tape, because I would grade the tackles and Ed Warner would grade the centers and guards. And, so it was like he'd grade 3, I'd grade 2, which is fair. And we'd have, we'd talk back and forth. Obviously, if there's a disagreement, Ed would win, not in a bad way, but like he is the actual position coach. So, but we were usually pretty in lockstep with how we would grade. We were never trying to sunshine pump too bad, but if in doubt, you'd rather have your guy feeling good and feeling like he's got a higher grade. So like a notoriously tough grader, believe it or not, was Jim Tressel. Jim Tressel used to grade Troy Smith, and the year Troy won the Heisman, he had, I think, one winning performance, that's what we used to call champions under Tress. So that was always hilarious. It's like, Troy won the Heisman and he had one winning performance in 06. And I was like, well, he won every single game for us, up until the last one. And he was unbelievable against Michigan and Texas. And I think Tress he was a tough grader. And I think some positions are tougher. Bowles, and Ed would grade really hard on a bad snap. Like a bad snap was like an MA, and if you get an MA, it just destroys your grade. Absolutely destroys your grade. And I remember there'd be times with Urban, Devin Smith would screw something up, and he would tell Zach he gets an MA and he gets like 7 minuses on this play. So it's like, it's not like you just miss the problem. You miss since you miss such an easy problem, the next 7 count as misses too, no matter what you do. Like Urban would just he would torpedo a kid's grade just because he'd be so mad at him. But and then there'd be guys that would just grade like everyone's a champion, and we would just laugh because it was like, I was like, God, that's how. I was like, you must be the professor that keeps some of these guys eligible that are really not supposed to be in college at this point. But that was always the funny thing, is there's some very easy graders, there's some very tough graders, and then there's some fair graders. And I just always wanted to be fair, because I remember when I was a player, I'd get severely angry if I didn't have the grade that I thought I deserved, and I'd get graded out on something stupid. And, we were always ultra competitive about our grades, because we used to have this thing called the Jim Parker Award, which was for the offensive lineman of the week. And if you won the Jim Parker Award, you got an extra Buckeye sticker. So it's like, if you get the winning performance and that, then you could get 7 leaves instead of 6. And it's like, if you do that over the course of the year, you get more leaves than everybody. Like I had my junior year, I won that 4 times out of 12 games, and I think Dadish won it twice, TJ Downing won it twice. I think Boone might have won it once, and then Rearing won it once, whatever. It was like kind of a spread. But and then at the end of the year, of course, I didn't win the lineman of the year. They gave it to Doug and TJ because they were the seniors, and I was pissed off about that, of course. But it was I don't know. The grading thing's always kind of controversial. But also big shout out to you, NevadaBuck, because the special teams player of the game was one of your Nugget extraordinaires, Mitch Rossi, who, if I went around to Heinegate and to the Varsity Club and to the Blackwell and everywhere around the stadium and asked people, who's Mitch Rossi, I don't know if anybody would know who he is, but he was in your Nuggets, which was amazing over the summer. So big shout out to you, Nevada. I appreciate you getting that one right. So what are your thoughts on our boy Mitch Rossi, the number 3 tight end?
Well, Mitch, tell you, he's a good player. He's a good player, and he's been terrific, for months and months at Ohio State. I've been hearing from staff and other insiders about Rossi that are like, hey, this guy's a really good player. And during the fall camp, he just kept making plays, and I'm not surprised by that. If people have been on BuckeyeScoop, they're not surprised by that name, because Mitch has been a guy that we've been talking about. But I was really happy to see him out there, and I think you'll start to see him, get some run. He'll, the way that they kind of use that extra tight end with Donovan Jackson, they're like to use these multiple tight end sets, and I think Mitch is gonna make some plays, and he's a great kid. Great family, and that was the NevadaBuck special. So I was pleased to see that.
That's when you know you're inside, when you're dropping Mitch Rossi in the Nuggets. I was like, what is a Mitch Rossi? And that is like, no, I'm telling you, he's good. And I was like, all right, I believe you. I had to look him up and figure out who he was. All right, so to wrap this up real quick, I'm going to ask both you guys, starting with you, Nevada, give me a name of someone who was not a champion against Minnesota who will be a champion against Oregon.
I'll say CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud is my pick. I think CJ Stroud. I think the rain, the magnitude of the moment, the road game atmosphere. I think all those things kind of got to him a little bit. I think he's going to settle down. I think he's going to have a big game this weekend. So CJ Stroud's my pick for a champion this week against Oregon.
Who about you, Noon?
Well, as I kind of think about it, I know that we still don't know the status for sure on what's going to happen with Seven Banks or Cameron Brown. But I'm going to say one of the corners who didn't play last week, if they're healthy, will step in and will be graded as a champion. And I know that I'm kind of screwing around with the question a little bit because they weren't champions last week because they didn't play. But I think that if one of them comes in, I think that they will be able to step into that role and be able to lock down, especially with Anthony Brown not being a huge passer, really starting to try and get back and watch that Fresno State game. Haven't necessarily seen anything out of Brown that puts a lot of fear in my mind in terms of if I were an Ohio State coach. But I think one of those corners will step into that role and be able to come out and get that designation by next week.
So you basically just took the field of every DB who's not.
Cameron Brown or Seven Banks. I'm not. Okay. I'm not saying everybody not named Denzel Burke. How about that? But I
love it.
Well, I'm new to the Scoop World Order. You gotta.
Man, I love it. Hey, if you can finagle a way to just brush I'm gonna take 20 guys and just try to finesse it. I like that. That's smart, dude.
I've never seen good in my head. It sounded good in my head.
Neither of you guys took the two most obvious guys in the world to me, and that's the two guys. I mean, I was like, I always hope you guys don't pick my guys, so I'm gonna take two since you guys are. Garrett Wilson, who's the best receiver in the country, against this turd secondary, is gonna roast these guys. It'll be roasted duck. Trey Henderson, the best running back in the country. There's only one guy in the world that can stop him, and it's the guy that played master over Trey Sermon last year. So, I mean, if you're a running back named Trey and you come to Ohio State, don't expect to start early, no matter how good you are. You could be Trey Barry Sanders, and you're gonna be sitting for a little bit. Okay, that's how we roll here at Ohio State. But I think Trey Henderson, oh my God, just give him 15 touches, please. Watch him go for 200 yards. Watch him get 2 touchdowns, average 8 yards carry, and then we'll be happy. I mean, the kid, just explosive, mature physically beyond his years. He does not look like an 18-year-old. He looks like a 22-year-old who should be in the NFL, and you got to feed that kid. I'm sorry. And then Garrett Wilson, had just a beautiful route. I mean, I don't know what he did the rest of the game that he didn't get a champion's grade. Trust Brian Hartline. I'm sure he grades very hard. But, against the secondary that Fresno State ate alive, I really think we're going to have a nice day. And, hopefully we'll just throw it over their heads a bunch of times because, I think, if you're a guy like Garrett Wilson and you're the projected number 1 receiver in the draft and you don't grade a champion week 1, I think you have a pretty big chip on your shoulder week 2. So I'm excited to see Garrett Wilson. So in closing, I appreciate both of you. Nevada, do you want to give a little preview for, you got some stuff coming tomorrow, I believe. Do you want to give a little preview on that? And then we can wrap this up.
Well, we've got some expansion stuff that we're putting out. We were the ones that broke the Big 12 expansion story before any of the major national outlets, before Fox or ESPN or anybody else had it. We had, 4 new teams in the Big 12, featuring hometown Cincinnati, which is really exciting. Cincinnati, BYU, UCF, and Houston all going to the Big 12. That'll be announced by Friday. But we kind of scooped the whole world on that. I expect to hear that Luke Fickell is going to announce a long-term contract extension there at Cincy as well, which is going to be some big news, and that's going to be breaking. And then we've got some Big Ten expansion news that's going to be breaking as well. So we got lots of good stuff happening at BuckeyeScoop, and I want to circle back on your Trey Henderson thing just for 1 second. It's criminal neglect that they giving that kid 3. I mean, you only have these guys for 2 years, 3 years. We're gonna have them for 3 years, and every game that goes by, I look at I mean, this kid is so unbelievable. I mean, the other Ohio State players are absolutely in awe of him, and we're gonna go out there and give him 3 touches. It's just I just. They better unleash him. This idea of keeping him in plastic wrap and saving him for a special day or something like that. Screw that. Let's just play ball. Give him the football. Give him the football any way you possibly can. Kickoff returns, punt returns, in space, out of space, no space. It doesn't matter. He's special, and he'll take it. If you give him 20 touches, he'll take 3 of them to the house, guaranteed. That's my parting words.
There you go. I love it. What about you, Nooner? What you got?
Yeah, I agree with everything there about Trey Henderson, and it is criminal to like not getting him out there. And I understand about paying your dues or whatnot, but come on, man. I mean, it isn't a situation of where he was an unknown quantity. I mean, he may have been an unknown quantity in terms of playing against a team lining up in a different jersey, but by all accounts, everything that had come out of the Woody Hayes facility was that this kid is the real deal, and he's proven it. And it's certainly he's certainly one of those kids that I felt that at my previous company that we had him criminally underrated, and with him getting out there, if he's, I hope he scores 40 touchdowns this year, just so I can sit there and at one of the next conventions of something, I can be there wearing my BuckeyeScoop logo. It's like, you should have listened to me. You should have listened to me. But it's all in good fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I my parting things, I really enjoyed the game last night. The Florida State Notre Dame game was interesting. My wife went to Florida State, Free Shoes University, and the hype around Notre Dame's defense was all hype, it looked like. And I think that they're gonna have a real interesting stretch coming up when they have to play Wisconsin at Soldier Field, and then they're gonna play the Bearcats. And like, I don't know, man. I'd be nervous because I think Cincinnati's pretty good. Top 10 team, athletic, well coached, veteran. That's going to be a very interesting game, that Cincinnati Notre Dame game. Like, normally the past, nobody would ever blink at that, but I think Fick could make a statement. He's going to know Marcus's defense better than anybody, and I don't know. It could be a sad day in old South Bend. But I appreciate you guys so much. This has been a great Monday. There's a game that's kicking off right now, so we're going to run over to it. And appreciate all you all in the Scoop family. Please subscribe to our channel. Give us a like. Give us some comments. And we will catch you guys on the message boards.